All right, let's jump right in. Imagine this for a second. You're feeling your own pulse, right? It's strong, it's steady. But then you take a deep breath in, and it just disappears. It feels like it's gone, only to come right back when you breathe out. Sounds kind of like science fiction, but it's a very real and super important clue our bodies can give us.
So, let me just ask you straight up. What if your pulse, the very rhythm of your life, actually faded with something as simple, as automatic, as taking a breath? This isn't just some weird thought experiment. It's a key sign that doctors look for, and it can point to some really serious stuff happening inside your body.
So this whole phenomenon, it actually has a name. Pulsus, Paradoxus. Now the medical definition is an exaggerated drop, we're talking more than 10 millimeters of mercury, in your systolic blood pressure, that's the top number, right when you breathe in. But here's the most important part. This isn't a disease itself. Nope, you should think of it more like a distress signal, a major clue that your body is sending up that something else, something bigger, is going on.
Okay, so this is where our little investigation begins. We're diving into the mystery of this fading beat. How in the world did it get such a strange name, and what is it really telling us?
Well, that name, paradoxical, it came from a German doctor, Adolf Kussmaul, way back in the 1800s. Get this, he's listening to a patient's heart with his stethoscope, and it sounds totally regular. Thump, 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 steady as a clock. But then, when he puts his fingers on their wrists to feel the pulse, it weakens or even vanishes every time they inhale. It was a total paradox. The heart's beating fine, but the pulse is disappearing? That made no sense, and so the name stuck.
So, to really wrap our heads around what's going wrong with this pulse, we first have to understand what's supposed to be going right. Let's take a quick look at the body's normal rhythm and how even a healthy breath can affect our blood flow. Okay, here's something that might actually surprise you. Every single time you inhale, your blood pressure takes a tiny little dip, and that's completely normal for everyone as long as that drop is small, less than that 10 mmHg number we talked about. So what's actually happening inside your chest to make that happen? The easiest way to think about it is something I like to call the lung sponge effect. When you breathe in, you create this negative pressure, kind of like a vacuum in your chest, and your lungs just expand like a giant sponge. This stretching motion opens up all the blood vessels inside the lungs, making them able to hold more blood. So for just a split second, a little extra blood gets held, or sequestered, in that lung sponge. That means slightly less blood makes it back to the left side of your heart to get pumped out, and, well, less blood going out means a tiny, totally normal dip in blood pressure. But what happens when that normal, tiny little dip turns into a huge, dramatic plunge? Well, that brings us to the prime suspect in our medical mystery, a condition where the heart is literally being squeezed. The classic, most dramatic cause of pulsus paradoxus is a condition called cardiac tamponade, and this is a true medical emergency. It's when fluid builds up in the sac that surrounds the heart, and that fluid puts a ton of pressure on the heart muscle itself, basically squeezing it so it can't fill up with blood properly. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got the normal, everyday process, a tiny, harmless dip in pressure, way less than 10 millimeters of mercury. But on the right, you see pulsus paradoxus, a big, exaggerated drop, way more than 10 millimeters of mercury. That's not just a quirk anymore. That's a huge warning sign that something is mechanically wrong.
So if you remember one thing, remember this number, greater than 10 mmHg. That is the line in the sand. It's the difference between a normal quirk of how our bodies work and a massive red flag that says, hey, you need to investigate this right now.
Let's just walk through this chain reaction together, because it explains everything. First, you breathe in, and that pulls more blood into the right side of your heart. Normally, your heart would just expand a bit to make room. But in tamponade, it can't. It's trapped by all that fluid. So with nowhere to go, the wall between the heart's chambers actually bulges over to the left. This squishes the left ventricle. And a squished chamber can't fill up with much blood, which means it can't pump much blood out. The result? A huge, sudden drop in your blood pressure.
Now, cardiac tamponade is definitely the most famous culprit, but believe it or not, it's not the only one. So let's look at how doctors actually find this clue and what other conditions can be behind it.
Yeah, just take a look at this list. It's not just about the heart. Sure, you've got other cardiac issues, but you've also got severe lung diseases like asthma or COPD, which basically put that lung sponge effect into overdrive. Even things like severe obesity can cause it. It's a surprisingly versatile clue.
So, how do doctors even measure this? Well, this is a perfect example of a classic hands-on physical exam skill. You can't just use one of those automatic blood pressure cuffs you see at the pharmacy. It's just not accurate enough to pick this up.
A doctor has to use a manual cuff and slowly, carefully let the air out while listening with a stethoscope. They listen for the exact pressure where they first hear the pulse sound, which will only be when you're breathing out. Then they keep going until they hear the sound all the time, both breathing in and out. The difference between those two numbers, that's your Pulsus Paradoxus. Pretty cool, right?
Finding the clue is obviously a huge step, but solving the case is what really matters. So that brings us to the treatment and the big takeaways from all this.
And this is absolutely critical. You don't treat Pulsus Paradoxus. It's just the alarm bell. You have to treat what's causing the alarm to go off. So if it's cardiac tamponade, you've got to drain that fluid to relieve the pressure on the heart. If it's a massive asthma attack, you use bronchodilators to open up the airways. You fix the root problem.
And this quote from the medical literature just nails it perfectly. Pulsus Paradoxus isn't the disease. It's a sign, a manifestation that something else is wrong. It's an amazing testament to how interconnected everything in our body is, where something as simple as breathing can reveal a life-threatening drama happening around our heart.
All of this kind of leaves you with one final thought, doesn't it? A fading pulse is a pretty dramatic signal. But it makes you wonder, what other, even more subtle signs is our body using to tell its story? What else is it trying to tell us, if we just knew how to listen?